everybody. I am really excited to bring this episode to you today. We're going to be talking with Patrick Metzger, and we're going to be talking about EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. This is a framework of doing business that we have implemented inside of our business. We've been running on the system for 5 or 6 years now, and admittedly, when we got started, it made a huge impact in our business, but we didn't necessarily implement it right. So, let's say we got 50, 60% of the benefit of what traction and EOS is inside of our organization. And so one of the things that we had done is we were going off the rails, so to speak, in our own businesses, trying to continue to follow these processes in EOS, is we sought out a professional implementer. And let me tell you, what a game changer. You're going to hear me talk about some pain associated with business growth. And any good entrepreneur knows this isn't always unicorns crapping out Skittles here when we're growing our businesses, right? There certainly is pain associated with gain. There certainly is conflict associated with high growth companies. But what EOS does when you bring in a professional implementer, it helps organize all of that so you clearly understand the path of why you're going through some of that growth pain, and you clearly see what you're shooting for in the result, whether that's 1 year, 3 years, 10 years down the line. And it's so valuable to have that perspective of why you're doing what you're doing for a specific outcome and desired result. And so, again, I'm really interested and really excited to get your feedback on this interview with Patrick. It's done wonders inside of our business. Again, it's been 5 or 6 years since we implemented it. It just so happens, since the implementation of that, even in the years when we implemented it poorly in the beginning, we've been on the Inc. 5000 list year after year after year since implementing it. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I am certainly grateful for the process, for the system of EOS, and extremely grateful for the guest that you're about to hear from, Patrick Metzger, and helping us really reorganize that system and work in a very efficient, accountable way inside of EOS. And so here's the interview with Patrick. Patrick, thanks for joining us on the show, man. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Ryan. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I have a bunch of questions I'm going to ask you for sure, and I'm looking forward to the answers. I know our listeners are looking forward to those answers as well. But I'm going to give you all a little bit of a description of my relationship with Patrick. Okay, I want you guys to think of maybe you're in high school sports, maybe you were in college sports, maybe you had a trainer for fitness or a tough teacher. Patrick, I'm terrified of him. He's our EOS implementer. He holds us accountable inside of our business. It's that love-hate relationship, but I'll tell you what, we have been on the Inc. 5000 list year after year after year after year, and I credit a huge part of that to implementing EOS inside of our business. And so when we met Patrick, he actually helped us reset some bad habits that we had inside of our organizations based on implementing and running EOS and traction by ourselves. And so Patrick helped us get back on track. And that's that tough love, that accountability. But I love this guy, one of my favorite people in the world, certainly from a personal and business sense. And so Patrick, before I get into questions, why don't you give people a little bit of a elevator pitch on what it is you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much, Ryan. And yes, if you are not interested in growth or moving your business forward, you may as well turn the podcast off right now, because that's all we're talking about today. Is
awesome.
You want to move forward, your growth mindset, you want to grow, you want to scale, whatever that looks like in your mind, this is going to be for you. If you're not interested, whoop, you may as well check out right now. So what I do, though, is I come into small, medium-sized organizations, and I really help implement an overall framework called EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And plain and simple, what it does is it gets businesses moving in the right direction very, very quickly toward their goals. So it helps get everybody on the same page. executing your vision, creates a much healthier leadership team that actually has fun. And it really creates what a lot of businesses are missing is accountability, focus, and discipline, because everyone can have a great plan. You can have great people and all that. But if you don't have a fantastic strategy and plan to get there, you're going to have a tough time.
Right. So you guys see what I'm saying right now? If you're not ready to grow, if your business doesn't want to grow, just shut this right off. You see what I'm saying with Patrick here? The accountability master, as well as candid, radical leadership with no room for fluff. Just getting real quick, which is perfect. All right, I'm gonna dig into some questions. Looking forward to the Q&A. I'm gonna kick us off right now. So you talked about growth. And you talked about businesses that aren't interested in growth. This is probably not the place for them today, but what does it mean to have a growth mindset, and how does EOS drive traction inside of businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. Growth mindset, there's really two types of mindsets when you look at whether it's a person, whether you look professionally. You have a fixed mindset, which is, just status quo. You believe that maybe your abilities are limited. You're not interested in improvement. Companies that live with this mindset are the ones that are eventually going to flame out. They're going to get passed by others.
Yeah.
And then you have on the other side of the coin, you have the growth mindset. So these are individuals or companies that are always looking for growth. They believe they have the ability to scale, tackle anything. They're always looking for that improvement. They approach, especially business, with the infinite game mindset, and it's all about process over product. And as far as EOS driving traction within organizations, EOS is absolutely for those types of companies, like we said, that are looking to grow, they're looking to scale, and make a bigger impact. And growth, want everybody to know, growth does not necessarily mean you want to jack your revenue through the roof, or you want to double your employees. Some people see that as doubling your headaches.
Sure.
It might just be the impact you want to make. It might be just efficiencies and optimization, streamlining those things to just get more efficient at what you're doing and make more money at the point where you're at. But really what I do, like I said, is I come into organizations, and my function is really threefold. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a facilitator. And I teach this EOS framework to businesses. I coach them how to use it really well, how to use all the tools. And then probably the most valuable piece is being an outside perspective and facilitator to guide businesses through those really tough conversations that are really, really hard to have. And the unique thing about EOS is, and the book that kind of started it all by founder Gino Wickman over a decade ago, the book is called Traction. And the really unique thing about EOS is it gets businesses literally moving forward absolutely day one when an implementer like myself comes in and starts bringing in the framework.
Something you said there I think is really important that I want to highlight. The value of a professional business person that's not inside of the business. Oftentimes we get blinders on, and there are these blind spots that we don't see issues, and there's so much value in having a third party that is not in the business day to day, week to week, to help flush out issues and get that additional perspective. I love that thought, and I think it's really important because I know I've experienced that inside of our organizations as well. That really leads me to my next question. What are some of the common struggles that you encounter with clients when you come into their business and start implementing EOS?
Yeah, there are many, and just to be honest, every organization has struggles, so anybody that thinks, because a lot of times we can look at businesses from the outside and say, man, everything looks so great and grand and they're functioning so well. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, just wait till you open the hood and you see the storm underneath there going on, right? But, a lot of businesses are succeeding in spite of themselves. And I would say the number one thing I see right away in businesses is you have people issues, right? You don't have what we call the right person in the right seat.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is the right person means they're a good, strong values fit, and they fit your culture, right? You have to have people that fit your culture and your values. The right seat piece is, this is where a lot of businesses really kind of miss the mark, is you have to have people put in the optimal position for them to succeed. So they have to be doing what they love, and they have to be doing what they're really, really good at. Otherwise, they're not going to be a high performer, and they're probably not going to be around your organization very long. So obviously you have people issues, process issues. That's always a huge one as well. You know, a lot of businesses don't have processes documented. A lot of them don't even have those processes identified. You know, a lot of leadership teams have these great discussions and they have this great plan, but it doesn't matter what your team knows. Your whole organization has to know it, and they have to believe it, from your CEO down to a brand new employee. They have to see your vision. It has to be communicated to them, and then you have to have a plan around all of it. You know, a lot of people just kind of drift with the current, and they make decisions on feelings, emotions. They look at, you know, their P&L, and they just make rash decisions real quickly based on what they think they should do, instead of looking at things like that.
Right. What are the things that EOS does specifically to help everyone in the company start moving in that same direction? You know, you talked about from top to bottom, from bottom to top, to middle to top, to middle to bottom, which you're exactly right. What are some of the tools inside of EOS that help ensure everyone's being aligned? I love the analogy of in the boat, rowing in the same direction, and you don't have someone sitting backwards with one paddle, like doing this out to the side, you know, that creates chaos. What are some of the things that you do when you come into a business to help align that team, not only people, but then align that vision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the very first day of coming into an organization, one of the biggest things we do right away is we look at the whole structure of where your people at, where your seats, and we call that the accountability chart. So we lay out what's the optimal structure for your business, not based on who you have in your business, because that's always going to change. People are going to come, people are going to go. That's just the truth of it. Mm-hmm. So we lay out what is the optimal structure as far as leadership team, seats. Who do you need? Do you need a sales marketing? Is that going to get split? Do you need ops? Do you need a project management piece? Is HR, finance, IT, all those things going to be split out and such? And then once we have the structure, then we start to identify, all right, do we have the people that actually fit those seats? Right. And we start plugging those people in. And so the very first day of working with a company, we immediately identify where are your gaps, where are your weaknesses, what do you have, what do you not have? Yeah. And then we start bringing in items like a scorecard. So we start tracking metrics, so proactive leading indicators. We start setting what we call rocks, or 90-day priorities for your organization, for your department, for your individuals. And then second and third days are really powerful too. We call those vision building days. And that's where we bring in a document called the Vision Traction Organizer. And we tackle 8 questions on that thing. So what are your core values? What's your core focus? What's your big why and your big what? We lay out your 10-year target, because everyone has to see long-term kind of where you launch in the boat toward. Marketing strategy. So who's your client avatar? What are you going to say to them? How are you going to pitch things? Everybody has to be aware of that. Then we start to get really granular with your 3-year picture, 1-year plan, and lay out all the issues. So we develop an openness and transparency of everybody knows what's actually going on in the organization. Because you always hear employees complain about that. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I didn't know this was going to happen. And right, you got to tell people.
Yeah. That issues list is where the rubber meets the road, man. That's where things get real. That's where problems get solved. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the money's made. That's where it's an incredible process to break down from that 10-year all the way down to a 1-year into the quarterly and then weekly accountability dealing with issues. It is. And then once you finally have that healthy conflict that you need within an organization where you can talk about anything and people are challenging each other in a healthy way, that is when you start seeing progress absolutely just take off. You know, and you said it, you stated even better than maybe where I was going with the issues list, is the ability to have healthy conflict and work through it to drive to the best possible solution inside of the business, and everyone is aligned with those decisions. It's incredible.
Yep, exactly.
Hey guys, here with a quick break from our show to remind you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. If you have suggestions for future episodes or you want to be a guest on the podcast, email us at podcast@connectbooster.com or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll be sure to point you in the right direction. Lastly, to find out more about our guests, check out their information in the podcast description. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of an IT Business Owner. Let's get back to the show. So accountability, we were talking a lot about that, right people, right seat. We get into a situation where we need to drive some accountability now because there is an issue inside of the business, and sometimes there's people issues inside of the business. So how does a manager have those difficult conversations when employees aren't getting work done or aren't being accountable to the tasks at hand?
With EOS, Ryan, we always look at things proactively. So even before you get to that point of like, oh man, there has to be a difficult conversation, things should have been done in advance. And with EOS, we put all the pieces in place where you shouldn't even ever be getting to that point, because it's all about expectations and it's all about a consistent plan. And, many companies really struggle because your leadership team knows the plan, like I said, but it falls off quickly after that. And then you get no accountability and buy-in because you're lacking that big why behind the business and everybody knowing that big why and then how you're executing that why, and like I love what you mentioned earlier, being radically candid. EOS is about being radically candid, and it really is successful in creating that transparency and openness top to bottom, where those items are addressed, those issues hit your list before they ever become that gigantic elephant in the room. So you're addressing things really, really proactively, and then that healthy conflict just becomes part of your organization over time.
Good point. The system takes care of a lot of problems before they become big problems.
The system breeds out the problems of a typical business long before they ever become an issue, a big issue.
Love it. So metrics, the most successful businesses that I'm sure you've worked with and that I've seen have real dialed in metrics and KPIs. How does that tie into EOS as a business operating system?
Yeah, the first thing with metrics is you think of the world we live in now, it's just data and data and data and data just piling at you. And you're trying to sort through it all. Like, what the hell do I got to look at here? What's important here?
Right.
And EOS really excels because it drives your organization to just look at the data and make decisions on it very, very objectively, and just strip away the excess, make it really, really simple. And, business owners tend to make poor decisions when they're making those decisions on feelings, emotions, ego, whatever it may be. So EOS brings in a scorecard and some other items to really just look at the data so that you're seeing just the info you need and everybody is seeing the same information. So we have a company scorecard, then we break it down to more of a divisional or departmental scorecard. And then eventually you have everyone in your organization accountable for measurables. So every single person is being held accountable to at least a few items. So if you're getting the production that you want out of your business.
Amen. Can I get an amen? So Patrick, you're obviously a really passionate guy about helping businesses grow. I think we've learned a lot about the reasons why you actually chose to be an EOS implementer, but what are some of the whys for you personally? I mean, what really drives you to help businesses? Because I know from firsthand experience, these are not always easy processes. They're healthy processes, but they're not easy. So what keeps you continually driving forward to get yourself as a firefighter getting in there in the flames and helping businesses put out those fires and succeed going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love what you mentioned at the very beginning, Ryan, around how, you think of a coach, a trainer, somebody like that. It takes somebody else to really pull the most out of somebody. It takes that outside resource. So for me, I mean, I've always been a teacher, coach at heart. I legitimately was a teacher for 11 years.
Yeah.
And my passion has always just been about helping others and really just allowing others to see the potential and finally act on it and really just squeeze the most juice out of whether it's themselves or business, whatever, because everybody wants more out of their business. Everyone wants to make more money. Everyone wants to make a bigger impact. But it's just about digging out that passion and drive that I absolutely live for in working with businesses. Because when they finally see it, and they finally start to see the results and you're challenging them and then they start to challenge each other, now you have a complete change in your culture. And that's ultimately what's going to blow a business up in a good way.
That's awesome. So how does a business get started with EOS? I mean, where do they go? What tools, resources do they look for to get started down this path?
Yeah. First thing I do with a company is I do what we call a 90-minute meeting. So I come in, I meet with a leadership team, whether it's in person, whether it's virtually. I work nationwide, but we do what's called a 90-minute meeting, and that meeting is completely free. And it's really broken down into 4 parts. So the first part of that meeting is I tell you more about EOS, myself, my background. Second part reveals a ton about companies. And it's always the most interesting part of the meeting when I get into a room with a team, because we do a detailed client intake profile.
Yeah.
And we start talking about where's your organization as far as vision, accountability, what's your meeting structure like? Do you have everyone on the same page? And it is crazy when you start getting team members looking at each other going, well, I didn't know that. Right. Well, that would have been good to know, and it's not all negative, but you really start to see like, wow, people are not on the same page and they don't all have the same information. So then the last half of the meeting is just walking through the tools, what they look like in your organization being specifically used. And then the process, as far as session days, what that looks like, our fees that we charge. And the really unique thing about EOS and what I do with companies is we guarantee every single thing that we do.
Yeah.
So you literally don't pay until you get the value that you want out of the day. So we don't make people sign contracts. We don't make them make a long-term commitment. We want a mental long-term commitment. But if it's not going to work for a company, we're not going to take your money, and we're not going to continue to work together. Do we ever see that happen? No, we don't, because it's a fantastic framework and it works. It's proven. It's been proven in over 10,000 companies worldwide.
So Patrick, how can people that would be interested in just learning more about what you could possibly do for their business, where do they go? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, best place is my website, www.patrick-metzger.com. You can sign up for a free 90-minute meeting. You can shoot me a contact form message through there. My email's on the site there. I love talking with people on the phone. Give me a ring on the phone, 701-412-1710.
Awesome.
I'm a black and white open book. There's no fluff. It's all transparency here as well. That's just how we do things.
For sure. Well, hey man, thank you for being on the podcast. I know it's going to add a lot of value to our listeners. So certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to spend time with me and all of us here.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, bud.
You bet.